I promise there's a point to this. Don't get me wrong. I'll get back to the point of what all this is about here in just a second. Hey, Weekend Experience team, I can't tell you how much I greatly miss getting to hang out with y'all at rehearsals and on team nights and on Sunday morning and on midweek. But you know what? God is in control, and before we know it, all of this will pass and we'll be back together. But until then, we have a variety of ways to stay involved and to stay engaged here at the church. We have our Sunday morning services online that you can not only watch, but you can actually log into. You can chat with the host. You can get prayer requests. Somebody can pray with you there live as we're doing service. And we also have a way to fill out connection cards, to give online. Anything you can do in a service, we can actually do on the online platform, aside from being, in the building together. So we also have a couple other ways we can stay involved and stay connected. One of them is our Monday night, 7:30 Bible study. At 7:30 on every Monday night, the Weekend Experience Global Lead Team hosts a Bible study, and everybody is invited to join this. And you get to hear from all of your Weekend Experience team leaders. Jessica has taught so far. Stephen has taught. I got to teach last week. Next week, we're going to hear Ralph teach. So I want to invite you to mark that on your calendar and chime in Monday night at 7:30 on Zoom, and I'll be sure to get those links to everyone. And then finally, another way we're staying involved is doing what we're doing here, staying connected. I'm going to be doing some videos. This is the first of what I hope to be a few videos. We'll see how it goes. And today I'm going to be talking about some vocal tips. We didn't get to do our team night, our team meeting this month, and I'm kind of sad about that because I love making music with everybody. But you know what? Y'all are my friends and my family. I love hanging out with y'all and getting to eat and fellowship and goof off and learn some things about music and technology and creativity. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a little makeup session for you. This is a vocal session, and we're going to be talking about some basic tips on vocals. Some of you may not be a singer, and I want to say that's okay. What I'm going to discuss will actually up your game as a communicator in general. And you may not sing, but you definitely speak. You may have to give lectures at your job. You may be a teacher. You may even just talking to your kids or talking to interpersonal communication. This will help you significantly with your vocal dynamic if we apply these principles. So principle number one with singing, and there's so many more, but this is just what we're going to cover today. Today has a lot to do with breathing. Principle number one is this: always top off the glass. Now, let me get a glass over here, and I'm going to fill it up a little ways. Okay. I used to be a barista and a waiter a long time ago, and the first thing that the owner of the restaurant taught me was never let the glass go empty. You know you've got a good waiter or waitress who's paying attention when they see your glass down just a little bit and they come over to your table and they top it off for you. Now, this principle applies to singing in this way. We always want to be topping off our air. So, you sang a phrase, but you've got plenty more air. Don't wait to get to the empty spot before you top it off again. Even if you just sung a few words, but there's a moment to catch your breath, go ahead and do it. And here's what happens when we do this. It gives a fullness to our voice, and it gives us confidence as we sing. Have you ever had those moments where you're feeling really good about a song, and then, oh darn, I'm running out of air, and then we get really, really quiet, and we lose that confidence. And it's not only just for the parts where we run out of air. Even if the phrase is this long, if we have air for a phrase this long, we're always going to sound better and have a fuller tone about our voice. So tip number one is always top off the glass. Second tip is this: once the glass is topped off, avoid the temptation to guzzle the glass. And here's what I mean by that. Let me get my props here. When we guzzle the glass, this is what happens when we do it. We are at a point in the song that I like to call the vocal sweet spot. It's that 7 to 10 note range that every singer has, that they excel at the most, that they're most comfortable singing in. or it's that part of the song that we're most passionate about. And we have the temptation to just let all of our air out on that phrase and, yeah, loving this part. And then we run out of air. And then there we go. And here's what happens. We get to the next part of the song and we don't have enough power. And not only that, our vocal tone sounds night and day different. We almost sound like two different singers. And our audio techs can attest for this. Here's what the sound tech does when we guzzle the glass. The sound tech grabs our fader, and what happens is we start peaking and distorting on the fader, and they bring us down to where we're at an appropriate volume for the room, but then we go back to reality to where we should be singing, and then a lot of times those notes are dead silent because they don't know when we're going to go back down, and sometimes they're a little delayed. I mean, it's not up to them. It's not really their fault or anything. So avoiding the temptation to guzzle the glass, having a full tank of air, always having more than enough air, and actually conserving the air as we sing. Now, granted, don't hold back to the point that you're not on key or that you're sounding breathy if the song doesn't call for that, but avoid that temptation just to let it all go on that part that you're most comfortable with. Singers that have mastered this sound so much better, and they mix well. And truth be known, the best singers are that sound good with the band are the ones that mix well. I didn't always understand this because for a long time, I kind of liked my voice. I've never despised it or anything, but I would hear other singers that just sounded so much better on tape than me. And there would be moments where I would hear my voice and then it would disappear. It would also happen in my ear mix a lot. I would get a really good sounding ear mix for part of a song, and then it would get to the sweet spot of the song and it would just be too loud. And I would end up being flat because I was too loud in my ears for that part, and I wouldn't, push it enough, and maybe I would fall a little flat, or I would be moving the mic back and forth a lot, and the sound guy was just doing this continually. So I was a gas guzzler. I was a glass guzzler at one point, and if I'm not careful, I'll default into that. And by the way, these are things that every singer struggles with. Nobody has executed these perfectly, but this is the direction we pursue if we want a good sounding voice, especially in a live band atmosphere with a mic and a PA system and a full team. So the next point, we top off the glass. The right time to breathe is any time, and the right amount of air is always more than enough. The second, don't guzzle the glass. Avoid the temptation of letting it all out on the parts of the song we're most passionate about. Third is get a bigger glass. Okay, so I have a big glass right here, and I have the glass I was using. Now, this is what this all means. Learn to breathe abdominally. Most of us don't tap into the full capacity of our lungs. When we start singing, a lot of times we're taking shallow chest breaths, but really we can breathe a lot more air in than what we think we do because we're not really thinking about breathing abdominally. And I tell you what, there's better teachers on that subject than me, so I want to encourage you to go online and Google abdominal breathing or breathing for singing and see what they have to say, because I've tried to teach a lot of people this, and everybody learns a little different, and there's several methods. I'll tell you the one that helped me out the most was laying flat on my back with my shoulders to the floor and bend my knees to where they're pointing up. And then breathe in as much as you can and protrude your stomach muscles out while you're breathing. And you'll find that eventually you'll feel air kind of go into the lower part of your lungs, close to your abdominal region. And then what we do is once we tap into, okay, that's where that is, we find out from there, where am I supposed to stand in a way where I can get the most air in and reproduce that while I'm standing. So get a bigger glass. And then finally, the final vocal tip is remove the lid or remove the straw, okay? And what I mean by this is open your mouth. Sound, okay, the noise from your voice does not come from your mouth. The noise comes from here, okay? And that noise travels up your throat, in through your mouth, and then out your lips. But if your mouth is closed, a lot of that sound is just dissipating. Now, when we're holding a mic, when we're up to a mic, we're not getting the full signal to the mic for the audio technician to work with. So open your mouth and get in the habit. It may feel a little weird if you're not used to it. And yes, you've got to open your mouth wider than what you would in normal conversation. I think of like anime cartoons. You know, their mouths are like really, really tiny when their mouth is closed, and then they open their mouth and it's really huge. Oh, it's like Muppet mouth, if you want to say it like that. So have some Muppet mouth when you sing. Take the lid off of that. Imagine if I had a Bluetooth speaker, okay, and I had some music coming out of it. And here's the speaker. And if I put a funnel onto that speaker to where now there was a little hole about like that. Matter of fact, I'll just cut my hands over the microphone while I'm talking. This is essentially what's happening when your mouth is not open all the way. But then when we open our mouth, there's more signal getting to the mic and you get a better mix. So many times audio techs get blamed for things that are singers' fault. I learned a lot of this stuff the hard way, just to let you know a bit about me. Every one of these vocal rules I broke for the longest time, and I did not know that they even existed. And really, it's only been in the last 5 to 7 years. And I hate to admit that because I've been leading worship for over 20 years now. And I'm just been learning these things about 5, 7, maybe 10 years ago. And they were game changers for me. Some of this I learned how I got out of these habits, just to let you know, being real with you. I listen to myself on tape. Tape is brutal, but tape really doesn't lie. And I want to encourage everybody, be comfortable listening to your voice on tape. It's going to sound different. You will not hear your voice on tape the same way you hear it naturally because the way sound refracts and bounces, and you hear a lot of warmth from all the tissue in your skull and all of that when you hear it with your own ears. But when the audio recorder captures it, you're really going to be capturing more of what everybody else is hearing, and then you can make adjustments. Secondly, I listen to other people's opinions. We as artists, we make our identity our vocals or our skills so much that sometimes it's hard to take critique because we think people are critiquing us when they're really just giving some constructive feedback on our skill set. And I want to encourage artists, no matter how long you've been playing, especially if you've been like me and playing music a long time, never get to the point where you cannot receive feedback from others. I'm constantly receiving feedback. I tell you who I receive feedback from the most is my audio tech and the people I trust. Sometimes people that aren't singers, because my gift is not for other vocalists. My gift is not for the worship community or labels or anything like that. My gift is for the people that I am leading worship with. And so I listen to them. I listen to feedback. And then thirdly, I learn to do sound. And I'll say this, if any singer wants to learn a lot more about the importance of the 4 things I just covered, learn to do audio. Even if you just go in there with your sound tech for one night and say, hey, can you show me a little bit about how you mix? And start listening to singers that are easy to mix and that sound good through the PA and why. Most of the time, the ones that translate really well through the PA are the ones that are following these 4 steps. And I had the pleasure of recording singers at my house. You know, I have a small home recording setup you can see some of over here. It's pretty basic. But I noticed when I would record myself, I would have these problems. It was hard to mix. I would have all these peaks. I would be like really quiet here, really loud here, and it just did not sound good. I was either too quiet on tape or too loud. And I would bring other singers in. 2 of them that I've had the privilege of recording a few times is Kelly Kramer and Karen Peeler. And by far, out of those 2 singers, they're the ones that I had to do the least amount of processing with. And as I started listening to the raw waveforms, I started learning that even though I had been singing a long time, there were some really basic things that I did not possess that they did. And they're the 2 singers that actually challenged me to get better at what I do and to reevaluate some of these basics. And it was a game changer for me. I guarantee you, these are game changers, and I hope this has benefited you. A little bit of advice, though. When you're going to start doing these, especially if you have not practiced these before, there's going to be some things you may have to put on the back burner for a little bit, specifically style, maybe pop culture enunciation, rasp, bends, runs, the little nuances that you do to flavor your sound. I had to get rid of those for a season, almost entirely, as I was relearning to develop my natural voice and my natural vocal tone. And here's what I discovered. At the end of it, after applying this, I found that I actually liked my natural voice a lot more, and I didn't have the need to doctor it up with a bunch of rasp and frills and bends and things like that. And I found that other people also liked the natural sound of my voice a lot better. And then I was able to add these things back in, but I was able to do it with a lot more wisdom and sparingly, to where it actually contributed to the tone. So that's one big piece of advice. If you are a singer and you've been singing for a while and you have not been abiding by these foundational breathing tips, just give yourself freedom to put style on the back burner. And then before you know it, you're going to come back after a season and you're actually going to sound better than you've ever sounded before. I hope y'all have found this beneficial. I've actually had a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing more videos like this. We'll probably do some more vocal tips. Might do some things on mixing. Might even bring some friends in and have them join the conversation. Y'all have a great day, and God bless.